Hello there. There's still little hope for improvement. Northern Ireland is struggling with domestic problems. But can new elections be the solution to the whole shenanigans there? A Northern Irish expert has little hope that the domestic political paralysis in the north of the Emerald Isle will end anytime soon. Political scientist Katie Hayward from the University of Belfast told the German press agency that even an almost impossible new election of the regional parliament, that would not solve the stalemate because of the reasons. According to polls, the strongest parties in both camps, the Republican Sinn Féin and the Unionist DUP, would gain ground. The election would not change much, except that the parties in the center would come under pressure given the polarization between Sinn Féin and the DUP, is what Hayward said. But the basic problem remains. In the regional elections in May, Sinn Féin was the first party to become the strongest force in favor of reunification with the EU member Ireland. However, the Good Friday Agreement of 1998, which ended decades of civil war, stipulates that the strongest party in both camps form a joint government. The DUP ultimately demands an end to the Northern Ireland Protocol that Great Britain and the EU had negotiated in the wake of Brexit. Loyalists fear the deal will encourage the area's secession from London. October 28th is the deadline by which a government must be formed. Otherwise, there will be new elections, which could take place shortly before Christmas. It won't be possible for there to be an agreement by the end of October, even with the best will in the world, says Hayward, and it wouldn't bring anything anyway. The DUP in particular showed no willingness to compromise. It's more likely that they will have a choice than there is no choice. No choice. Britain and the EU have resumed talks on the protocol after a long break. The substantive issues remain the same, but the tone is more positive. The prevailing feeling is that there could be an agreement, but the protocol will stay. And what will make the difference is the prioritization and the willingness on both sides to show flexibility, but within the protocol. The Northern Ireland Protocol prevented a hard border between the north of the Emerald Isle and the rest of the island. After Brexit, of course, and that would probably have sparked more violence. Northern Ireland remained a de facto member of the EU internal market. However, a customs border emerged between the north of the Emerald Isle and the rest of the UK. There were trade problems, for example, with food between Northern Ireland and Great Britain because London isn't really implementing anything. London is therefore threatening to terminate the internationally binding agreement and is planning a corresponding law unilaterally. The result would probably be a trade war with the EU. And as bad as it sounds, that's probably one of the smaller issues facing the people of the UK at the moment. So the whole video will not be about this. The central bank, for example, has now reversed course where the highest inflation currently prevails in the industrialized countries, namely in the United Kingdom. Instead of selling bonds, it is now switching back to buying bonds in order to limit the rise in interest rates at the long end. The pension funds in the UK apparently have a real problem with a massive increase in interest rates, which initially means significant price losses for bonds. In addition, the new government on the island wants to help the ailing economy with massive tax cuts and thus large budget deficits, although parts of those tax cuts are gone now. Parliament initially rejected the plans of the new head of government, Liz Truss, but the debt is so high that the state needs favourable financing conditions. And Brexit is increasingly proving to be a disaster for the country. However, this step in Great Britain may also mark the beginning of a change in monetary policy in other Western countries. And the energy crisis makes other goals seem subordinate. Britain's decision to issue new licenses for oil and gas field deployment in the North Sea has drawn criticism in view of the country's climate targets. Great Britain wants to develop new oil and gas fields in the North Sea. Business and Energy Secretary Jacob Rees-Mogg, which is a paradox anyway, announced a new round of licensing for it on Friday, stressing the move is necessary for Britain's energy security and does not conflict with Britain's climate targets. Haha. And according to the competent authority, around 100 new licenses are to be issued. The decision drew criticism with a view to the country's climate goals. However, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, considers compliance with the agreed 1.5-degree target to be possible only if no new fossil fuel infrastructures are created. The international communities of states has agreed on this brand in order to avert the worst consequences of climate change. You heard about the Paris treaties. The British government insists that its decision is even in the interest of the environment. Rees-Mogg emphasized that the domestic combustion of oil and gas is more climate friendly than importing it because there is no need for transport. The co-leader of the opposition Green Party, Adrian Ramsay, said about this, the government's claim that it is helping the goal of climate neutrality by burning more fossil fuels has no connection to reality. But that's something that usually describes JRM. And Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon also sharply criticised the plans and urged London to make strict climate checks the basis for the decisions. Last year, Great Britain, as the host of the World Climate Conference COP26, presented itself as a pioneer and warned other countries to say goodbye to fossil fuels. And now this. And as divisions within Britain's Conservatives have become clear, 4 cabinet members have called on the ruling party to back their controversial Prime Minister Liz Truss. Home Secretary Suella Braverman, ex-Chancellor of the Exchequer Nadhim Zahawi, leader of the House of Commons Penny Mordaunt, and Environment Secretary Ranil Jayawardena published opinion pieces in 4 Sunday newspapers warning that the party would soon find itself in opposition unless it regrouped quickly. The Tories' party conference this week highlighted the deep divisions in the party. I talked a lot about this already. Braverman, who had criticized Downing Street's course there, warned in the Sun on Sunday that anyone who works with Labour to weaken our Prime Minister is jeopardizing the Conservative chances of winning the next election. The choice for party members is simple. Support Liz or get Keir Starmer hand in hand with Nicola Sturgeon. Well, I don't see that one yet, but still. Zahawi wrote in the Mail on Sunday that the government had made mistakes with its tax policy, which led to a humiliating backtrack on the plan for tax cuts for top earners. But now it was time to rally behind Truss, he said, and also warned of a left-leaning Labour government backed by the Scottish National Party. But later you'll hear what Starmer says about this. And Mordaunt, who like Truss had run for the successor to ex-party and government leader Boris Johnson, struck a conciliatory tone in the Sunday Telegraph and explained that all colleagues were called upon to deliver. Controversy will only play into the hands of those who would lead our country in the wrong direction, she wrote. And Jayawardena wrote in the Sunday Express that Tory MPs had to support Liz Truss or they would get Nicola Sturgeon with Keir Starmer in the luggage. Well, Labour leader Starmer had ruled out a deal with the SNP, which advocates Scotland's independence from the rest of Britain. Labour is more likely to form a minority government, he said. So he's not very hopeful in this situation not to win. And despite the current situation in the UK, the English Channel is still one of the busiest sea routes in the world. More and more fleeing people are using it to get to Great Britain, even if it's a shithole at the moment. More than 360 refugees were rescued from distress in the English Channel on their way to Great Britain on Sunday. People trying to cross from France to England in small boats were taken to safety by boats and a French Navy patrol ship. That's what the French Coast Guard said. A total of 367 people were brought to the French ports of Calais, Boulogne and Dunkirk. Since authorities tightened security at the Channel Tunnel in Calais, more migrants have attempted to cross the English Channel in makeshift boats to reach the UK. The Channel is one of the busiest sea routes in the world, as I said, and is crossed by more than 400 ships every day. The weather conditions are often quite difficult. Since the beginning of the year, 33,500 people have crossed the English Channel in small boats. And according to the UK Home Office, 94% of migrants who arrived in the country in the past 4 years have subsequently applied for asylum. Although it might be a family thing, that family is already there for other reasons. I personally wouldn't go there. I have still a lot of friends in the UK, and what they are telling me is nothing that you would want for yourself to live in. And seriously, I'm complaining a lot about my social democratic government here with their so-called traffic light coalition, and they are not doing such a good job. And I'm not even talking about the Ukraine war. That's a disgrace what they're doing there. But thinking about this Tory government, and I mentioned it yesterday already, it usually would be a partner party of my party. It's unbelievable what's going on there, and really can hope for the people in the UK that finally something will be done for the people. Waiting for elections will not be the thing, because until then a lot of people will live in deep poverty. Because 2 more years with a policy like what we see now, the Tory government has to make a big U-turn now, and they have to find a way to get rid of the ERG. And Liz Truss, which I only can call the chameleon now after seeing everything during her lifetime, she is so dependent on these people that probably nothing will happen. But still, as you still can hear in my voice today, I will this week probably be only on this emergency service with just one video on my main channel. And I know some people really like my military channel, my Europe channel, and so on. You still will have to wait for new content there, because it's quite tough still to get this one video done. But as I said, in the UK it looks bad, really bad, but it's not sunny lands here in Germany either. It's not as bad as in the UK by far, but still it's getting more expensive here. And so I at least have to earn some money with one video a day. If I could, I would do more, believe me. Income of self-employed is even worse. And you can imagine how much I pay for electricity, even on a much lower level than in the UK, but I pay 4 times as much as a normal household of my size because of this studio here and all the computers, the lighting, and everything else. So you can imagine how that is working in a energy crisis. I'll see you in my next video tomorrow morning. Unfortunately, only that one, but I will be back.